Anyone that has worked in the general industry or construction industry, or pretty much any industry where you're building shit or operating equipment, these may come off as items that we should not have to cover, but we need to for several different reasons. Some that are just starting out in the field, whether as a new safety professional or someone new to the craft. These are things that everyone should be told about right out of the gate, as soon as they start, as soon as they step foot onto a job site. And then there are just people that are stupid and need things spelled out for them. So that's why we're doing this. But for more so the first reason, not that reason. But yeah. So the first one is maintain proper housekeeping. You ever hear your mom tell you how to clean your room, or tell you that you need to clean your room? Well, now you're going to have your bosses and safety people tell you to clean your room, to clean your work area if you don't maintain it. Trust me, we don't like to do it either, but sometimes it has to be said. Sometimes, honestly, the work just gets away from you. You get focused on the task that you're working with, and the more you set things down because you're just fixing to pick it back up and use it again, but, oh wait, now I have to do this first thing before I come back to that next thing, and then that next thing, you know, your work area looks like the room of a 12-year-old boy in the middle of summer break and has 12 of his friends staying the night. It's a mess. But keeping our work area clean serves several different purposes. It keeps the floor and area clean so that we don't have to worry about tripping over anything, causing a stumble or possible injury. It helps us to better identify where tools and equipment are. And yeah, I know a lot of the times we just want to set something down so it's right there when we need to use it again, but you're really only saving 15, maybe 20 seconds. So take the time to put things back when you're done with them. If it's a tool that you're actively using, just set up a tool area for where you're working. That's where you set all your tools down. That's where you place everything you're working with. It's nearby to where you're working, and it also helps maintain a bit of order through your work area, keeping everything clean and organized and more efficient. The last reason is, as much as I hate to admit it, perception is reality. If your work area looks horrible, it's going to give people a bad impression on you, on your crew, and your leadership. But most of all, it's going to look bad as if you can't even be bothered to maintain your area and keep everyone safe. Proper hazard communication. And this sounds like it's this horribly confusing idea, but it's crazy simple. Make sure that all chemicals have labels that show what is inside. There are hundreds of examples, hundreds of stories where people have put some kind of harsh chemical inside of a Gatorade bottle. Someone comes up and takes a big old drink out of it because they're thirsty. Sometimes they're fine. Sometimes they just get really sick. Sometimes they die. And sometimes if they don't die, they have life-lasting injuries because of downing a chemical that they shouldn't have been drinking. So it's very important that all chemicals, regardless to how severe or how minimal the damage to that person may be, they have to have proper labels and they have to be in appropriate containers. Some chemicals will eat right through a plastic bottle and have to be placed in a special storage container. So make sure the appropriate container is identified and is properly, labeled. Very simple. Not everyone knows what type of container is best for which kind of chemical, but there's an SDS for every chemical out there. The safety data sheet will tell you what the chemical is, what protective equipment needs to be used when working with that chemical, and how you can be exposed to the chemical and first aid measures if you were to become exposed. Like if you drank it, or you got some in your eyes, or some on your skin. Review the safety data sheet for every chemical that you use, and you'll never go wrong unless you do something that the SDS specifically tells you not to do. Then you'll get in trouble. Communicate. This is where seasoned veterans to the industry need to step in and help those that are just getting started. Don't just think that everyone knows what it is they're supposed to be doing and know all the hazards associated with the task. If you've worked a certain task before and you know that there is a hazard that nobody has talked about yet, bring it up and make sure everybody knows so that everyone has the same base level of knowledge going into that activity. If there are new people to the crew that haven't worked in the industry before, kind of take them under your wing and be there to help and mentor them until they learn the ropes and the basic fundamentals for whatever position it is that they're working. If you're in the middle of an activity and suddenly there are new hazards or the job scope has changed, take just a few minutes to stop the work, identify what has changed and how everyone can safely move forward. Don't assume that you know what is going on, because if you are in an operating facility, your assumption may cause plant damage, which can also result in an injury or even a fatality. Know when to stop work. Before we start a job, there should always be some kind of brief that occurs where the leader of the activity tells everyone what the plan is for the task. Who is going to be responsible for doing what the task is. They're to cover the JHA for the activity and give everyone an expectation to what they can expect to find when they approach the area that the task is going to be performed in. However, if you get to the work area and it's completely different from what you were briefed upon, stop the job and contact the supervisor and let them know what you've walked into and let them tell you how to proceed. Even if it's something small, if you get to the job site and nobody told you about standing water on the floor, but now you get to the location and there's water on the floor, call the supervisor. Let them know what you found and let them tell you how to proceed. They may have to go and call someone else and get directions from them, which they will relay back to you. You may get to a piece of equipment that you were supposed to work on, but now you get to the equipment and you find the equipment red tagged under clearance, but the clearance information on the tag is different from the clearance that you signed on to. You stop the work, stop the job, contact the supervisor, and let them know what's going on. Let them tell you how to proceed. You see, when we start assuming that we know what we were supposed to be doing, that is when incidents begin to occur. You may know what to do, and the supervisor may relay information to you that is the same as what you were thinking you needed to do, but it's better to take the few extra minutes to make sure to verify your understanding is correct, because sometimes it won't be. The next one is using the right tool. I know it's easy to just grab a tool that is nearby so that you can do whatever it is that you are needing to do. But if it isn't a tool designed for that activity, it could end up failing and causing an injury. Maybe it will work though, for a time, but eventually if you keep taking that kind of shortcut, you're going to reach the point to where your car gets pulled and something happens. Many jobs have the right tool for what it is you need to do. They're kind of obligated to have it under the General Duty Clause, which basically states that all employers must provide a safe workplace for their employees. If your employer is not providing you the right tools to be able to perform the jobs that they're assigning you to do, they're not really providing you a safe workplace. If you have an idea for a new tool, speak to someone and try to get it developed. I've seen many tools get handcrafted in the field and submitted to engineering for designing and development. So if you have an idea for something that you think would work, speak to the powers that be, see if you're on the right track, and go through the proper channels of getting it designed and tested for use in the field. But don't use a tool or an object that is not designed for the use that you intend on using it for. That screwdriver handle may work as a hammer for a time, but it's not going to work forever. Only work on de-energized equipment. This one should be obvious, and anyone that is new to the field should know this one already. But common sense is not always common. If we're changing a light bulb at home, what do? We turn the light switch off. If we're cleaning the top of the stove, what do? We make sure the burners are turned off. The same rule and logic applies to work as well. If we're working on a piece of equipment, we have to make sure that it is turned off, isolated so energy can't reach the equipment, and make sure that it remains de-energized. If we work on anything that has energy running through it, and we start to work on it, the consequences behind that action could be catastrophic and can be fatal in sometimes. Which argument could be made that catastrophic and fatality is the same, but get what I'm saying. It could be directly related to the equipment that we're working on, or it could be related to something that will pose a threat to us while we are performing whatever task or activity that we're performing. When I worked at a Coke plant, we had to make sure that the train was de-energized and locked out so that it doesn't make its way down the tracks to the oven that we were working on at that same time, because, well, we would get ran over. So before we start working on equipment, these are questions that need to be asked. Is the equipment turned off, and is it de-energized? How is it isolated? And if they say no to anything, you need to start asking questions as to why. Now, it may be a valid reason, and there will be a workaround for it, but it needs to be discussed. In some cases, you may not be able to remove all of the energy from a piece of equipment, but if you can't, there's always a plan in place so the activity can continue safely without risk of injury. Wearing proper PPE properly. I let this one for last because PPE should be viewed as a last resort and never as a first option. Even while wearing PPE, you could still get injured if you aren't careful or you're not paying attention. Your hands could still get crushed if you were wearing gloves and you stick it in a hydraulic press. So you still have to think about what you're doing when you're wearing PPE. You're not bulletproof like Jet Carr is. If you know, you know. I'm not talking about the TV show or the movies. You gotta go to the books for this for this Easter egg. If you have to wear gloves, make sure you're wearing the right size of gloves. Wearing gloves that are too big for your hand could cause issues. You may not be able to grip something as well as you normally would, and you could drop it and hit someone below you. If you're wearing fall protection, you want to make sure you're wearing it properly and it's adjusted according to your body, especially with the leg straps. I've seen guys wear fall protection harnesses, fall, and, well, let's just say that they can't have kids anymore. Yeah, the hole just exploded. You get what I'm saying? Now look, you keep hearing everyone talk about how you should be working safely, and the reason as to why we should work safely has more to do than just having us as the reason why we should be working safely. There certainly is a ripple effect in every decision that we make in life, and the fact of the matter is if we get injured, whether it be a significant injury or a minimal injury, or even a fatality, it affects a lot more people than just us. Even if it keeps us from holding our loved one's hands for a week because we have 4 stitches in one of our fingers because we decided to not wear gloves. But in this video, I talk about 5 reasons why you should work safely. You may not enjoy the first reason, and you may not understand why I have 4 and 5 in 4th and 5th place, but after watching it, I promise it will all make sense, and I hope it changes the way we all work.